Hello, my melodies. Welcome back. This is going to be a part 4 of the Learn with Mark on the Pokemon trading card game series on this channel. So if you're part of this playlist and you have just clicked on this video and you want to start back at the beginning, go start with Pokecatch and then go on to Basic Battle and then the 30 card demo. If you've done those, thank you so much. Thank you for watching those. Come back in here. Or if you're just interested in special conditions, hang out. If you know a little bit about the trading card game in general, I'm going to be talking about the 5 main special conditions. I'm going to be talking about a little bit of the just regular conditions as well. The 3 different kind of stats I have, like active Pokemon player versus board, all of those different types of details. So we're going to be talking about that stuff. Hopefully you'll gain a little bit of information. Hey, if any part of it helps, then that's why I'm making these videos. Hopefully it helps during your gameplay sessions and answers any questions. If you have any questions while you're watching this video, feel free to comment down below. I will try and answer them as quickly as possible or put it in a future video with the Learn with Mark series. Okay, with that out of the way, the regular details there, let's go ahead and switch on over to the playmat. Here I have my older version of my Charizard deck kind of set up to do some demonstration, and we're going to talk through the main 5 special conditions for the Pokemon trading card game. Now, it is the main 5, but they're kind of broken up into 2 different categories. One of the categories can be applied with the other category, and then that's kind of how I separate them out in my head. Of course, I'm talking about burned and poisoned can be applied along with one of the other 3. The other 3, of course, is asleep, confused, and paralyzed. So we're going to talk about burned and poisoned first. I have a couple different cards that are recent. There's the burned one, there is the poisoned one, and then we'll talk about some of the other conditions that might show up. So when we are talking about poison, we can see there's a Brute Bonnet here where the first attack says your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned. Hopefully that is in focus a little bit. Poison spray. So we're going to pretend that Brute Bonnet is who I'm facing as my opponent. On the other side there, we're going to go ahead and put it kind of up there. So Brute Bonnet is going to go ahead and poison us. So what that does, they attack, that ends their turn. We use the poison marker. That's why these come in the Elite Trainer box. So that you can show the condition, the special condition during the game on the Pokemon that it's affected on. So Charmander is now poisoned. Now that ends the turn for the attack from the Brute Bonnet, and then between turns is something that we like to call Pokemon checkup. So during the game, in between every turn, there is Pokemon checkup, and you have to make sure and do some extra stuff in that in-between state to handle these special conditions. So, for example, with poison, between turns, you're going to take 10 points of damage while you're poisoned, unless there's another modifier out there on the board. But let's say Brute Bonnet attacked, it's between the turns. I'm going to put, if I can find it, I'm going to put 10 damage counter on Charmander. I took 10 damage, and now it's my turn, so I'm going to draw to start my turn. Turns out I just got another Charmander. I'm going to go ahead and put Charmander down there. And I also have a Bidoof. Let's go ahead and take a Bidoof, put that into the bench. You can see I have 4 Pokemon on my bench already. Buddy Poffin, if I were to do this, I could only put 1 Pokemon on there because I only have room for 1. And Ultra Ball, of course, says I can discard 2 and then go search for any Pokemon that I want. But we're talking about poison right now. I have a handy dandy little booklet that I put together. These little cards used to come in some of the Sword and Shield era items. I wanted to go over and talk and see if I missed anything about being poisoned. So if your Pokemon is poisoned, put a poison marker on it. That's what we did. You can see some of the older poison marker statuses there. And then put a damage counter on your poison Pokemon during Pokemon checkup. You can't have 2 poison markers. If you get poisoned again, then the new special condition just replaces the old one. You can only be poisoned once. But with all special conditions, let's say I don't want my Charmander to be poisoned anymore. The way you do that is by either evolving this Pokemon. So if I moved this Pokemon into Charmeleon or into Charizard with a rare candy, then I would be able to remove the poison marker. Or let's say I'm just going to manually remove that poison marker. So I'm going to attach an energy for my turn. I am then going to pay the retreat cost down here like we showed in the last video. We'll move him back to the bench. I'm going to promote the other Charmander, and poison goes away because active Pokemon move to the bench. This applies for all special conditions. If he was confused, if he had poison, if he had burned, if he had can't attack this next turn, if he says going to be knocked out at the end of your opponent's next turn, any type of special condition, if you move the Pokemon to the bench through an item card, being able to do manually retreating if you are allowed to manually retreat, any of those types of actions, moving it to the bench will reset its special conditions. The new Pokemon in the active does not take over those special conditions. With all of that said, there are some like moves that say this Pokemon can't attack on your next turn. A lot of decks will have mechanics where they have switch, an item card that says switch your active Pokemon. So you can switch them to the bench, move them back up, and then be able to attack again with a very powerful attack. I think Zamazenta V was a big one there. There's a lot of other Pokemon in the trading card game that have that type of mechanic, and then you build the deck around that, right? You need a lot of switches. You need maybe Prime Catcher to be able to switch some stuff. You need a lot of energy to be able to retreat, or you have Pokemon that have free retreat, stuff like that. You can build a mechanic around getting rid of special conditions. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and talk about an ability. Well, no. Let's continue on the special condition track. We'll get to abilities here in a minute. We're going to pretend that I'm still on my first turn way back in the day, which actually would mean that. Okay. We're back into the beginning of the game. We're going to talk about Cast Form's ability that says your opponent's active Pokemon is now burned. Now, a lot of attacks are simple like this, like they only do that, or it could be in addition to something else doing damage, but we're talking about some simple forms of this. So now, great example, your opponent's active Pokemon is now burned. Let's pretend Cast Form has attacked my Charmander. Same thing as poisoned. I am now burned. During Pokemon Checkup, for burned, however, I'm actually going to be putting 2 damage counters. So I'm going to put 20 damage in between the turns. And then for burned, I actually get to roll to see, do I recover or not? So you use your coin flipper die. So this one is from the Shrouded Fable ETB that we just opened on the channel. So we're going to roll. We're going to see, okay, that was tails because it's odds. I do not recover from burn. Then I go into my turn and I continue my turn as normal. Between Pokemon Catch Up, the next one, I would then put me to 40, like so, and I would roll again and hope I recover. I do not recover. I'm going to stay burned until I do one of the other actions to remove the special condition. So that is burned. Let's move on to the next one. I like to start with, that's can't attack, that's asleep. Let's go ahead and pretend that Claydol is attacking us. Now we have Claydol here, and we're going to talk about the Mind Bend attack here. It's going to do 30 damage, and then my active Pokemon is going to be confused. So Claydol is attacking me. I'm going to take 30 damage. Let me find the 30 on here. I'm going to take 30 damage, but now I'm confused. So instead of it being upright, my Pokemon is vertical. Now, it is confused when I am confused during my turn. So I'll go ahead and draw. Let's pretend that I want to attack. Let's go ahead. I'll have that energy still there. We're setting up stuff. We're not doing any real actions there. Is that Pidgey? I did get a Pidgey, though. I'm going to put the Pidgey down showcase something else later on. So let's say I want to do this attack. Even though I'm not doing any damage, if I want to attack at all, I have to roll to see if I actually succeed in doing that. So when I am confused, when I am in this state, when I go to attack, I get to declare I'm going to do Blazing Destruction. I would like to discard a stadium and play, but before that happens, I will roll. This fell off camera, but it was a heads. If it's heads, I get to do the attack like it's normal. If it's tails, I do 30 damage to myself. So confuse can be a very tough one of a flipping a coin to being able to attack and push through a confused state or not. The other part of confuse is you notice it's vertical. So in a normal state, Pokemon is upright. In a confused state, it is still technically upright, but it's upside down. So if it is a vertical, that means I can retreat it still. So I can pay to retreat the one. I can move it back. It recovers from being confused. And now it's good. It's important to know about the vertical stats because anything that is a horizontal special condition, you cannot retreat. And we're going to get into those right now. So the next conditions. Let's show what's the first one here. Now let's start left. We have Gengar here, which has an ability that says it does 100 damage and your opponent's active Pokemon is now asleep. So let's go ahead and put a Pokemon that's not going to get knocked out. Let's pretend Gengar is now attacking us with Nightmare for 100 damage. So 100 damage onto the Squawk ability, and now he's asleep. Now I want you to notice in a lot of the instructions, it'll actually have this handy little kind of detail to talk about it. If we are asleep, then we move the Pokemon to the left. ASLEEP. Asleep to the left. Paralyzed is to the right. So I have taken 100 damage and I'm going to be asleep. Now during a sleep state, during Pokemon checkup, I get to flip a coin. So he's attacked Gengar. It is now in Pokemon checkup. I don't do any damage, but I do want to check to see if I wake up. So I'm going to roll, and I do not wake up. That means I'm going to enter my turn. I will draw, and then I'm not going to be able to do anything else, really, because he's asleep. I cannot retreat because it's one of the horizontal special condition states. And really, unless I can evolve this Pokemon, or if I have a card that says recover from special conditions, or if I have an item that says switch the active Pokemon, I'm not going to be able to retreat, but I can still play a switch. Then he's going to stay asleep for the whole turn. Now I move Squawkabilly up here because I want to take a brief moment before you get into Paralyzed to talk about abilities. Squawkabilly EX has this ability, and it says once during your first turn you may discard your hand and draw 6 cards. You can't use more than one Squawk and Seize ability during your turn, and that's the Squawk and Seize ability. That's what it's called. For this demonstration, this is not going to actually make sense. So we're going to now that I'm talking it through, we're going to pretend back to the start. This is my very first turn. I can either go first or I can go second. If I'm going first, I'm not going to be able to play a supporter. If I go second, I could, but I am going to be able to do the Squawk ability, and it basically just says discard your hand. It's a little bit like a professor's research, and then draw 6 cards. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then that is the action that I get to do for that activity. So that is an ability. These abilities you can use at any time unless it specifically says. This says only my first turn. So if it's my second, third, fourth, whatever, I'm not going to be able to. But as long as it's my first turn. So if I go second and it's still my first turn, you can use Squawkabilly. Now, there are other abilities down here. We can take a look at Bidoof. It says as long as this Pokemon is on your bench, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks, yours and your opponent's. So as long as he's on the bench, he's not taking damage from attacks. Effects of attacks still go through. Same thing with Manaphy. Manaphy says Prevent all damage done to your bench Pokemon from attacks from your opponent's Pokemon. So this is kind of protecting the entire bench. It's always active. It only really comes into play when a Pokemon or opponent is attacking with damage as part of the attack. Now, if they were doing a special effect or an effect of an attack like damage counters, that actually does go through these particular details for these abilities. Alrighty, on to the next special condition. We have Cryogonal from the Obsidian Flame set. So this says, if you go second and it's your first turn, your opponent's active Pokemon is now paralyzed. So let's pretend that it's attacking me. I went first, they went second, they attacked me, I'm taking 30 damage, I do the 30 damage, and I'm paralyzed. And we remember from the little cheat sheet book, remember PAR, turning it to the right, it is paralyzed. Paralyzed acts a lot like asleep, except with asleep, you get to recover between Pokemon checkup. Paralyzed, you are that way until you get rid of it or until you start your next turn. So during this turn, I would be paralyzed the whole time. If I don't have a way to wake or recover from that special condition, I would then pass and I would recover during Pokemon checkup to the opponent's turn. Alrighty, that is paralyzed. Those are the big five. I know we went through a lot of information. Feel free to pause or rewind or ask a question down below. The last kind of detail I wanted to talk about was here's an example. Apparently I grabbed one. During your next turn, this Pokemon can attack. So let us pretend that we are able to... Umbreon's up there. It has enough energy. I'm going to do Pitch Black Blade for 140, doing something special. And then it says, during your next turn, this Pokemon can attack. Well, that's no fun. But let's say it goes through. It survives a whole nother turn. We're going to go ahead and say, that I'm going to do Pidgeot EX ability. Let's say I evolved him, and I can do Quick Search. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for a card and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. You can't use more than one Quick Search ability each turn. So I'm going to do Quick Search for the ability because I think I might have something that allows me to switch. There we are. Example. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and grab a switch with Pidgeot EX so that I have it in my deck. Do a quick shuffle because that's the action. You're supposed to get something and then shuffle your deck. Offer your opponent to cut. They're going to go ahead and say tap because most of my opponents know I'm not playing super serious games. And then now it's my turn. So I am in a special condition. There's nothing signifying that I'm in a special condition, but because I know I attacked with Pitch Black Blade last turn, myself and my opponent are keeping track of that in our heads. We need to keep track of board state. So this active Pokemon cannot attack during this turn. But what did I say at the beginning of this video? Special conditions can be removed if you move it to the bench. So I'm going to go ahead and pay 1 to retreat, and then I'm going to switch, which states, switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. So I can retreat once per turn, can't do more than one retreat per turn, but I can play a switch and a retreat, and now Umbreon is back in the active, and I can do Pitch Black Blade again. Assuming I have the energy for this lesson, we are assuming I have the energy, and that was what occurred. So I wanted to talk through that one because that one's a little bit of a interesting mechanic. It's a special condition that you don't actually visually see. There's no orientation of the card. There's no special token, any of that. It is just something that is on the board, and it happens that way. Okay, so we talked about Squawk. We talked about Pidgeot EX. Gengar has a fun Pokemon. So if I had Gengar in play with that ability, once during your turn, you may switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. Maybe I pair these together and I have Gengar down here and I can go ahead and swap him in and out and be able to do a bunch of Pitch Black Blades without needing a switch. So I could retreat manually, do the ability, and then be done. And it says once during your turn, not total. So if I had 2 Gengars, I could use one Gengar to move to the bench, another Gengar to move them back up. And then I want to talk about the Charizard ability here. Do I have a regular Charizard? I'm trying to think. I think I do, maybe. Hold on. It's easier to read if it's a regular Charizard. You know what? I think it's prized. So we're going to use the fancy Charizard. Okay. I'm assuming I have this. We're going to get Umbreon out of there. Gengar out of there. Charmeleon is there. Okay. I'm in my game. I just drew for turn. I got a rare candy. Now, rare candy says you can skip the stage 1 of any Pokemon and move to stage 2. So I'm going to play rare candy and I'm going to move into Charizard. But Charizard has this special ability, and it says when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may search your deck for up to 3 basic fire energy and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like, then shuffle your deck. So I have just evolved from my hand, because of rare candy, onto my Charmander. I can then go in and look, and I can grab, there's 1 energy down there. Did I have all of the other energy? There's 2 energy. There's 3 energy. So let's say I'm going to put 2 up here, and I'm going to put 1 down here as part of that action. Now my Charmander needs 2 energy to attack, or my Charizard needs 2 energy to attack. I can attack. So that's where this Charizard deck comes into being very consistent. I don't have to worry about having energy in my hand. I can do the ability at specific times. If I need a card to do something, I have Pidgeot EX on the board. I also rare candy into Pidgeot EX to be able to do that ability, and so on and so forth. So a lot of different topics that we talked about in today's video. These are some kind of the higher level play mechanics when we talk about the different levels. Do I have one? I do. When we talk about the different levels of play of the play level, there you go, play level of the different Pokeballs of different items, we have one which is the basic where you attach energy, you attack for your turn. Step 2 is a lot of like these interactions where you're doing multiple things to be able to achieve an attack during your turn, or you have support Pokemon that never are supposed to attack, but they're there to be very helpful. That's level 2, and then level 3, of course, is the full mechanics of some of the highest level of play for the trading card game. So let me know if you have any questions around those items. That might be another video where we talk about some advanced decks. If there's a specific deck that you want me to break down and talk about in my style, how to run it, how to play through it, let me know. I love my T deck. Maybe I can showcase how my T deck works. The best case scenario, or just play through a couple different hands and show you how I navigate my deck is kind of the phrasing there as well. If you made it this far, thank you so much. Put let's do a red heart for Charizard into the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully these videos are educational. You learn something, or if you come up with extra questions. And as always, if you come out to League and you want to talk through a deck of, well, how does this card interact with this card? Or in this scenario, what happens? Feel free to come over. We'll talk about it. A lot of us at League like to talk about the different scenarios or the different conflicts of different cards in the game as well. So we will happily talk you through anything. If you're new here, hit subscribe. Usually I'm opening up cards and having different stuff, but trying to do some more educational videos because I like teaching as well. So some of these videos will pop up from time to time. Either way, I appreciate you for watching. Thank you so much. Remember to keep singing the song in your heart. And in the end, a little music goes a long way.